Good morning. Welcome to day one. In his sermon entitled The Fellowship of the Mat on Sunday, June 6th, Captain spoke of the importance of faithful, open friendship. Together, you build trust and love and mercy and grow your faith. You are open with each other in this friendship, and you trust your friendship to bring you to the feet of Jesus. The healing Jesus brings is complete, not just physical, but spiritual. He heals you completely. The reference for the sermon was the lame man who had his sins forgiven and also picked up his mat and walked. He had been born lame. He'd never walked in his life before. The power of that message touched my heart deeply. Am I that kind of faithful friend? Is my faith strong enough to hold my corner of the mat of the friend and carefully lower him or her to the feet of Jesus? Do I have someone who I can openly share and trust deeply? In Charles Stanley's In Touch magazine, on June the 14th, he had a story open up to others, and it meshed with Captain's Fellowship of the Mat sermon. Stanley's story is based upon 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 11 to 13. And it reads, "O Corinthians, we have spoken openly to you. Our heart is wide open. You're not restricted by us, but you are restricted by your own affections. Now in return for the same, I speak to you as children. You also be open. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what accord has Christ with Belial? Or what part has a believer with an unbeliever? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. As God said, I will dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty." The popularity of social networking reveals our hunger to connect with one another. Yet, many people still feel lonely. In fact, even at home, work, or church, people sometimes feel they're in a gathering of strangers. The degree to which we are known is in part our own responsibility. Instead of building a wall of self-protection, we must risk opening up and letting others into our life. The fall of Adam and Eve usually brings to mind the disconnect that sin created between God and mankind. but it also affected all human relationships from that time on. As a result, fear and pride threatened to keep us in bondage due to isolation and self-protection. Paul urged the Corinthians to open up to him as he had to them. But because they thought he'd been too harsh on them in the past, the congregation had built walls of distrust and animosity, which were hindering the apostles' ministry to them and the effectiveness of the church. Relational walls can be difficult to recognize, but sometimes self-protection comes in the form of unforgiveness, gossip, distrust, and resentment. Ask God to reveal ways that you may be shutting someone out. He'll help you demolish hindrances in your relationship with Him and others. And to conclude, I'd like to share with you a hymn. Open my eyes that I might see. God calls us to employ all our senses as we strive to seek and serve Him. We must keep our entire beings, our bodies and souls, tuned to God's every communication and prompting. In our busy lives, we often miss quiet promptings of God's Spirit. And when we do hear God speak, we often ignore the message. This hymn calls us to watch, listen, and act on what we've seen and heard, sharing with others. Clara Scott, writer of the hymn, was a music teacher, and she became known for her book of anthems. Her eyes and ears were open to God's leading, and she was ready to obey. We should be ready to do the same. Open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Place in my hands the wonderful key that shall unclasp and set me free. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my ears that I may hear voices of truth thou sendest clear. And while the wave notes fall on my ear, everything false will disappear. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my ears, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my mouth and let it bear gladly the warm truth everywhere. Open my heart and let me prepare love with thy children thus to share. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my heart, illumine me, Spirit divine.